Number 9. The Paris Catacombs, a maze of corpses. In present-day France, the catacombs have become a tourist attraction. The history of these mysterious Parisian catacombs, however, dates back to the 17th century, when Paris ran into an inevitable problem: death. Though it seems like a normal occurrence in life, this case is slightly different. Amidst the Great Plague of Marseille that devastated half of Western Europe was a pile of deceased bodies with nowhere to be buried. As the bodies piled up, the entire city was covered in an intense stench of death. The pre-existing cemeteries and graves were overstuffed to the extent that there simply was nowhere else available to bury the bodies. The French king at the time, Louis XV, then banned burials within the capital city and ordered all the bodies to be transferred elsewhere. At that time, the only feasible solution they came up with was to transfer the bodies into the quarries which were used for limestone mining beneath the beautiful city of Paris. Eventually, around 200 miles of tunnels were dug to pile the dead bodies in. We're not talking about a few hundred or 1,000 bodies. We're talking about a staggering number: 7 million bodies entombed below the French city. The funeral keepers arranged the bones like the skulls, the tibias, and the femurs in geometric patterns like circles and hearts. The most famous arrangement is that of a barrel, which was created to support the ceiling from crashing into the tunnel. These tunnels are 5 stories deep, and the oldest remains found date back to 1,200 years ago. We can find most bones stacked all the way from the floor to the ceiling. Today, a mere 1 mile of the tunnel is open to visitors, while the rest remain a mystery. However, this doesn't explain why there are numerous hidden rooms and blocked passages inside. There are also reports of several people who have gone missing inside the catacombs. There's even an urban legend of a ghostly doorkeeper who had lost his way in the tunnels and was eventually found dead after 10 to 12 years. Truly, the Paris catacombs are the stuff of nightmares, and the number of mysteries behind it makes it just more interesting. Despite being open for interested tourists, there's a sign at the entrance written in French that says, "Stop. This is the Empire of Death." Number 8. Melbourne Wildlife Park. On November 4, 2018, in Melbourne, Australia, YouTube explorers decided to visit and explore an old abandoned wildlife park. As they went inside, they found everything barren and decaying, with most of its items left to rot. Apparently, the owners of the wildlife park were accused of animal abuse and were seen to be unfit to own or run such a business. They didn't even have a license to run the place and were forced to close the gates in 2012 after giving away their animals to designated animal protection centers. Soon, they were evicted. As the explorers unveiled the remnants of the wildlife park, they stumbled upon a large aquarium which they initially thought was an empty tank. But to their surprise, inside it was a well-preserved shark. It's not every day that we see a great white shark stuck in an aquarium. It was later revealed to be a 5-meter-long, 16-foot taxidermied great white shark who was named Rosie. Rosie died in a tuna fishing accident and was later sold to the park as an exhibit that was to be preserved in the aquarium for the guests to see. Unfortunately, they were unable to take it with them when they closed their doors. Truly, it is a hair-raising situation to come across, and quite a mysterious one if you don't know the context of it. To this day, Rosie the shark has not been removed from the aquarium filled with strong formaldehyde, a preservative chemical. The eerie site remains exactly as it was found. Number 7. The abandoned Disney Island. Disney, as we all know, is the reason for our childhood memories, from movies and cartoons that hosted our favorite characters to memorable theme parks with several joyrides and popcorn. But behind all of that is this mysterious dark side of Disney. In 1974 in Orlando, Florida, Disney bought a private island to set up their new theme park, and they named it Treasure Island. It was initially advertised as a place of adventure and entertainment, but soon after they changed the name to Discovery Island, turning it into an exotic bird wildlife park containing 150 exotic bird species. At first, this was a massive success, but due to high maintenance costs and the lack of employees, it closed down in 1999, preventing anyone from ever entering it once again. Were maintenance costs the real reason behind the closure? That much remains unclear. Urban explorers and abandoned space enthusiasts were sparked with curiosity, and obviously someone had to trespass in order to explore the mysteries of the once Treasure Island. So, 20 years later in 2018, YouTuber Matt Sunzwa entered the abandoned park, discovering it ravaged by the numerous storms that passed through and the expanse of the overgrown vegetation everywhere. But that was just the exterior. Inside, it looked far more disturbing. The YouTuber found dead animal carcasses that were occasionally seen lying on the ground, and the whole property was overrun by nature. Mat Sunhwa was eventually charged for trespassing, but he did manage to reveal his findings to the world. Number 6. Nan Madol. Nan Madol is one of the few abandoned cities in the entire world. Nestled near the Federated States of Micronesia on the small island of Pohnpei, this ancient city is deemed to be the only one built on top of coral reefs. Presumed to have been built between the 13th and the 17th century, the abandoned city today is known for several mythical mysteries that surround its questionable existence. Rufino Mauricio, the only archaeologist at Pohnpei, revealed that Nan Madol once belonged to an ancient dynasty called the Sodaleur. The island is composed of 92 artificial islands and housed around 1,000 of its 25,000 inhabitants atop structures made of stones and columns. To date, experts are baffled at how these ancient people managed to transport columns made of black lava rock from the other side of the island to Nan Madol. Although there are no inscriptions or artwork etched onto these rocks, the locals went to great lengths to choose those which were naturally hexagonal, pentagonal, or even straight. Some columns are almost 20 feet long and are arranged in a typical log cabin formation that make up the outer seawall. The artificial islands were built upon lumps of coral that make for an elevated foundation upon which sat thatched dwellings. These structures could either be lodgings, tombs, or places of worship. The extraordinary effort put into the construction of this city is comparable to the glorious pyramids of Egypt. Let's not forget that there were hardly 30,000 people with absolutely no access to tools, pulleys, or metal. Mauricio says that the approximate weight of the black lava rocks moved estimates to about 750,000 metric tons. When we do the math, the locals would have had to transport over 1,850 tons of rock each year across 4 long centuries to build Nan Madol. The last ruler of the Sodaleur dynasty was overthrown by an outsider named Iso, whose descendants, known as the Nanmuarkes of Madololimu, still continue to live around Pohnpei. Iso apparently committed suicide after seeing the reflection of his aged face in a pool. The city has been abandoned for centuries now, and all that's left today is the contrasting deep blue seas, the green luscious jungle that's taken over the once thriving city, and the ruins of the deep black lava rock architecture. It makes for an intimidating visual indeed. Modern Pohnpeians today regard the city for being both scary and sacred at the same time. While they claim that the ancient people would have used magic to build this remarkable island on reefs, today it's the spirits who have taken over what's left of this engineering marvel called Nan Madol. Number 5. Radioactive Chernobyl. Chernobyl is a name synonymous with nuclear disaster. While you may be familiar with the name, do you know the details and history of what happened after? On April 26, 1986 in Pripyat, Ukraine, the commercial power plant of the city Chernobyl suffered a malfunction, causing it to explode. The disaster left 50 people dead and 4,000 more exposed in its radioactive zone. Now, in the present day, Chernobyl is nothing more than a desolate city whose radioactive levels will continue to remain toxic and uninhabitable for at least another 20,000 years. The abandoned town is incredibly eerie, especially the amusement park that was supposed to be opened the day before the accident took place. The Ferris wheel of the amusement park is a well-known landmark often shown in photos of the radioactive ghost town. Today, it's safe to visit on a guided tour, but time spent there is still limited and risky. Even after decades, a large shroud of mystery still covers Chernobyl, from a rumor that the explosion was intentional or the story of the soldiers that sacrificed themselves to neutralize the warheads in an attempt to prevent any more explosions. Of course, besides a large number of deaths, there are also the well-known side effects and images of Chernobyl. Some of these include a radioactive sludge nicknamed the elephant's foot, eerie photos of the items left by the former residents, or of the places that were once bustling with happy and laughing visitors. One memorable photo of Chernobyl's nuclear catastrophe shows a pile of gas masks, which were allegedly used by those who were unable to escape the disaster. Many mysteries still haunt Chernobyl's past. Are you familiar with the Chernobyl nuclear disaster? What's your favorite well-known or pop culture abandoned place? Let us know in the comments below, and while you do, make sure to like and subscribe. Number 4. The Unbreakable Church. In Nuevo San Juan Parangaricutiro, Mexico, a small village once existed. In that village lived the faithful Christian servants of God. But of course, their faith alone couldn't save them from the natural disasters, especially when the village is right next to an active volcano. In 1943, when the Paricutin volcano erupted, it ended up burying the entire town in lava and ashes. Of course, the residents were evacuated, but it was painful to leave their beloved homes and belongings behind. All they could do was watch as their village was engulfed by the raging volcanic lava. But as this happened, to everyone's surprise, the small church that the town contained remained standing even after the eruption. While the whole village was reduced to ashes, the church stood tall and undamaged. The church is now set up as a tourist spot, and though abandoned, it has an amazing story to tell, with interiors, especially the altar, that continue to remain in good condition. But in the end, even to this day, nobody knows exactly how and why the church remained intact. It's just not the lava. The area is also prone to several typhoons, and over the years the church sustained little to no damage from any of these calamities. So did faith protect the church? Or was it something bigger? Greater? I guess we'll never know. Number 3. Hashima Island, the Ghost Island. Today in Nagasaki, Japan, there exists an abandoned island called Gunkanjima, or the Battleship Island. It is now known as Hashima Island or Ghost Island. But why is it nicknamed as such? Well, it's the dark past of the island that helped to cement this name. In 1887, the island became inhabited by Japanese residents, making it a bustling community which was known for its abundant coal mines. Unfortunately, during World War II, many war prisoners were taken, and Japan, which at that time was notorious for its war crimes, decided to enslave its workers. Thousands of Korean and Chinese captives were put to work under very extreme and harsh conditions. Eventually, thousands died. Soon, the coal mines became useless, and all the residents of the island decided to abandon them, leaving hundreds of mass graves behind. To this day, the complete extent of the war crimes that occurred on Hashima Island remain a mystery. Aside from its tragic war-era history, all that remains of Hashima Island is its decaying buildings, mass vegetation, and common wildlife. You can, however, also hear ghost stories about Hashima Island from visiting tourists. Several bodies of the dead laborers remained undiscovered. Number 2. Villa de Vecchi. Villa de Vecchi, or Italy's Red House, has over the centuries earned a reputation for being haunted. Snugly situated between the forested mountains in Lake Como, Italy, the Red House resides where an avalanche in 2002 swept away all the houses nearby, and the massive mansion was the only one left standing tall. Built in the 19th century by Count de Vecchi, a decorated war hero following the Milan liberation, the classical Eastern-styled mansion was equipped with the best of the amenities available at the time. From pressurized water fountains to a grand piano, the mansion had it all. While picturesque artwork adorned the ceilings and walls, beautiful landscapes surrounded the impressive 130,000 square meter property. The vacation home was designed by the skilled architect Alessandro Sidioli, who mysteriously died well before the villa was completed. And from there began a string of mysteries surrounding the ghost mansion. Locals were quick to label the mansion as cursed and under an unforgiving satanic spell. Despite all the claims, the Count de Vecchi continued to use the villa as his summer residence until eventually in 1862, he found his wife brutally murdered and his daughter missing. The dejected Count frantically looked for his daughter but committed suicide in just a few months, again under mysterious circumstances. Some reports claim that the Count left a suicide note that read, "Due to the state of the house and not wanting to contribute any further to its demise, I bid my last adieu with no plans to return." The property was then passed on to the Count's brother, Biagio, who fortunately lived an uneventful period of time, until he too abandoned the property during the Second World War. Later, Aleister Crowley, a prominent Satanism figure and occultist who was obsessed with sexual rituals and sacrifices, took refuge in this huge mansion. He used the house for satanic rituals and organized sexual orgies. Soon, several murders and suicides followed until it was abandoned for good in the late 1960s. The intricate artwork is now replaced with anti-Semitic, pornographic, and satanic graffiti. Despite the Gothic legend that surrounds the Red Villa and the severely deteriorated interiors of the once glorious property, the mansion continues to stand tall to this date. And occasionally, locals have also been treated to the eerie notes of the grand piano, which was silenced decades ago. Number 1. The abandoned mall with an aquarium filled with fish. Around the world, there are several abandoned malls whose stories vary by their history and their decaying interiors. Most of the time, these places are empty and contain no unusual surprises. But this abandoned mall revealed a shocking gift to its explorers. Bangkok, Thailand, an abandoned mall that has a slightly disturbing backstory leading to its abandonment, recently had something fishy found inside. In the early 1980s, the New World Mall of Bangkok was open to the public. However, things only held out for a few years until the shopping mall closed down. Several reasons were put forth for its closure and eventual abandonment. From a 1999 fire that endangered lives to a dishonorable display of architectural design, or even to misfortune and mismanagement. There's a report from 2005 which states that a part of the shopping mall collapsed, killing vendors and forcing it to the verge of bankruptcy. But in the 2010s, after it closed down, the ever-collapsing mall soon started building up a small pond through the rain and storms from its debris, eventually creating a mosquito-infested pond, which in turn ended up affecting the local community. So it was decided to put fish into the mall pond to battle the problem and kill off the offspring of the mosquitoes. But in 2015, this soon became a new problem as over 3,000 of the fish multiplied, from mango fish, koi fish, striped catfish, and other unusual fish the residents had put in. The water in the mall had become disgusting and sluggish, so the government and the residents decided to intervene and save the fish by releasing them into their natural habitats. Eventually, the mall was drained of all the water. That brings us to the end of today's video. Which one of these mysterious abandoned places seems like the most interesting to you? Do you know of any abandoned places shrouded in mystery? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time for another amazing video right here on American Eye.